The way too early Heisman conversation. It's February, which is the perfect time to be talking about who could win the 2026 Heisman. I think it's safe to say we can make an early prediction here. It's going to be a quarterback. I know. Drop the mic, folks. Drop the mic. It's going to be a quarterback. I think that's for mainly the two main reasons of A, it's quarterback award more times than not. But also, I do think 2026, 2027 is loaded at the quarterback position. If we just look at the NFL draft, there's not a lot of guys. Like, it's going to be Fernando Mendoza, Heisman winner, and then it's going to be Ty Simpson, Garrett Nussmeier. But if we fast forward to 2027, bare minimum, one of these guys are going to pop off, and they're going to be one of the high-level stories of college football, and I could easily find themselves in Heisman contention. Right now, as it currently stands, CJ Carr is the early favorite. I disagree with that, and that's for the fact that I don't know if there's going to be those big opportunities that we originally anticipated when looking at maybe them facing off against USC. Notre Dame's schedule is light. And so CJ Carr, when you take away Jeremiah Love and Darian Price, and their wide receiver room is really damn good, and you see all these different pieces, I think Notre Dame, easily top 3 team in the country. But that's not all what the Heisman is going and having a ton of wins and putting up solid stats. Although that may be the case in some stories. Yeah, that is the case. I think Fernando Mendoza is a great example of that. You put up solid enough stats, you went undefeated, but also the story. And I don't think, a lot of people are going to respect any Notre Dame player after they took their ball and went home and didn't want to be in a bowl game. They're the villains of college football right now, especially how they've gone preferential treatment for the college football playoff. But I also just think there's better stories. You know, Arch Manning, if they give him an ounce of production in the offensive line and actually start catching the football, and he starts to really string along multiple games of high-level production, there's no reason for him to not win the Heisman, to be honest. He's going to have those big moments, those college game day-esque games where everyone in the nation is going to be eyes glued to what Arch Manning's going to do with Texas. That's going to be an easy Heisman contention right there. I do expect him, when we look at the second half of his season, he did take major steps forward. Now, is it still a very long road to where maybe some of the expectations were for some people in college football? Yeah, that's fair to say. He still puts the ball into the dirt. His mechanics are still out of whack. But the high-level moments, if he can just get the variance to hone in a little bit, that dude's going to find himself in New York pretty easily. And he's at number 2 in terms of the odds. So that really shouldn't come to much of a surprise to anybody. If we're talking about, I guess, a couple sleeper names I would throw out, because I'm not going to try to go down the list and find like the plus 10,000s, right? We talked about CJ Carr and Arch, and both of them being guys that are going to be, for the most part, top 5, even in a couple of months. I don't expect any of them to drop more than what we originally saw. Darian Mensah and Sam Levitt both really stand out. Now, when I watched their film, I think we're looking at 2 very similar quarterbacks. Mensah and Levitt are going to be on SportsCenter top 10 so many times throughout the 2026 season. So many times. It is remarkable to watch these quarterbacks make the easy stuff look so difficult, but the difficult stuff look easy. I mean, you will watch a Sam Levitt tape and there's these checkdowns or swing passes to the running back, and he'll either throw like 3 yards behind the running back, or maybe just it's not a very catchable ball. And then in the very next snap, you'll see him evade an edge player, roll out to his left, and throw a dime down the sideline to a wide open wide receiver. And it's a very difficult throw nonetheless. Same could be said for Darian Mensah, who is now going to slot himself into that Miami system with Malachi Toney, his top wide receiver from Duke, who is a dog, by the way. Then you throw in Mark Fletcher. If we're talking from the NFL draft perspective, I have a lot more hope for Mensah to develop into a draft guy, but we're talking Heisman here. And both of these players, I think, are going to produce at a very high level because Levitt is now slotting himself with Charlie Weiss that is just going to produce numbers. It's just going to produce numbers like crazy. And if we look at LSU as a whole, frankly, I think LSU, and I know Josh Pate talked about this as well, and if this is true, if we project LSU to maybe come off to a slow start, but really gain some momentum towards the end of the season, this is easily a spot where we could see a guy like Levitt really get the control of an offense, and that ball comes down the mountain and it just continues to grow and grow, and momentum starts to grow with it. And all of a sudden, we see Sam Levitt in New York holding up the Heisman Trophy. It's the same case with Notre Dame, where LSU is kind of hated right now, but great wins and quarterback play in the SEC. I think the schedule is what's going to hold Notre Dame back. LSU doesn't have that case, and maybe the start of the Heisman campaign is when A&M comes into town and they revive what happened, where A&M basically stood on their logo, spit on it, and took over their stadium. Maybe that's the bounce back spot where LSU really starts to click. And Levitt could easily see himself as a Heisman contender. I think a real sleeper, though, my biggest sleeper for the Heisman is Byron Brown out of Auburn. I love when you have the continuity of the quarterback with the head coach in the system that we know works, and he's a high productive mobile quarterback that can have some real highlight plays and grab the attention of the college football public, because truly you're not going to be able to do that just as a pocket passer that's super accurate that maybe the NFL draft scouts like. No, you need to take the attention of the college football public, and usually it's those mobile guys, those highly creative players. And a lot of people are relatively low on Auburn. I don't know why. I think Auburn's going to be a very good football team. Alex Golesh, very good coach. Insert into Auburn resources with continuity at the quarterback position. They're continuing to check off boxes, and yet I still think they're being undervalued by the college football public. Byron Brown, the biggest thing, and I said it right here, I said, watch out. Because when it clicks, I think it's going to click well, and I think it's going to grab the attention of a lot of the college football public, and everyone likes an underdog story, and Auburn always plays the underdog, so if they continue to rise up and maybe get a couple wins, string things along, they could find themselves with a Heisman-level quarterback. Hasn't been the first time, and I don't know if it's going to be the last.